Welcome into STB Sports Take, simply the best sports podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham. Whether on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Thank you for joining us. We've got a great show today. We're talking Caitlin Clark. We're talking LeBron James. We're talking the NBA playoffs and NBA finals. We're talking Shedeur Sanders. We got a lot of stuff to get through. We're going to start with Caitlin Clark, though, okay? She is currently injured. Now, we all know that she is far and away the most popular player in the WNBA. She might even be the most popular player in the world. Probably not surpassing Steph and LeBron just yet, but like most other NBA players, she's actually more popular than them too. Now, just to show how crazy popular she is and the actual impact she has on the WNBA, ticket sales are plummeting with her out. In fact, ticket sales are down 70% in many places. The Fever played the Mystics 2 nights ago. The cheapest ticket before her injury was announced was $41, the cheapest one. After her injury was announced and people knew that she wasn't going to be playing, the lowest ticket price dropped to $3. $3. This is the Caitlin Clark effect. The WNBA doesn't quite realize what they have in Caitlin Clark. She is the absolute golden goose, the golden ticket. She is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. They must protect her at all costs. You can argue all you want if she's the best player in the league, but you absolutely cannot argue if she's the most important, because she is. She is more valuable than all the other players combined, and that is just a fact, okay? To illustrate this, I went and looked at the WNBA's Instagram account, and I'm going to show you this real quick. Check this out. Look at the posts here with Caitlin Clark. 40,000 likes, 60,000 likes, 57.8 thousand likes. The one right before it, that's not Caitlin Clark, 3,000 likes. Right before that, 1,500 likes. And then right next to one, 14,000 likes with Caitlin Clark. Look at this difference. Look at this. Like, just the likes alone, the engagement alone on social media is insane, okay? So here's the other thing. Now, I should note that she doesn't have the most followers. The most followers is Angel Reese. And I think I might have that here somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. So check this out. So these are the most followed WNBA players: Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, Sabrina Ionescu, Wilson. AJ Wilson's probably the best player in the league. Cameron Brink, you see the list here. Haley Van Lith, a lot of younger players. Kelsey Plum is not younger, but anyway, you see the list there. So that's the top 10. So Angel Reese is number one. But there's an interesting thing here. Angel Reese plays for the Chicago Sky, right? Now, the Chicago Sky play the Indiana Fever in Chicago in the United Center. Okay, they increased the stadium size. They changed the venue to get a bigger stadium just for the game against Caitlin Clark. Well, Caitlin Clark can no longer play that game, okay, due to her injury, and the ticket prices have gone down 70% in that game as well. So, Angel Reese, I get it. You're doing your thing. You're a quality player. You're also popular. But that's a home game for you in your hometown, and you're going to be there playing. But ticket sales are plummeting by 70% on TickPick. This is the Caitlin Clark effect, you guys. This is it. The merchandise sales in the WNBA increased by 500% since she came into the league. The Indiana Fever were valued at $90 million when she entered the league. They're now valued at $340 million. It's been 1 year. In 1 year, they've more than tripled the value of the company. I mean, it's insane. Now, I will say there was a story going around that I heard that people were boycotting the WNBA and their Instagram account, and they had lost 95% of their followers. I looked into that. That is not true. They still have 3.3 million followers. So unless they had like 65 million followers before, which I guarantee they did not, that story is not true. People are not boycotting the WNBA because Caitlin Clark is injured. People do think that she's not getting protected like she should be, and I think there's an argument to be made there. But one thing is certain: you are not going to have the viewers on TV without her, and you're certainly not going to have the butts in the seats at the stadium without her. So protect Caitlin Clark at all costs, because the cost is massive if she is hurt and can't play. So WNBA, keep wisening up. You don't need to do star rules, but if you're a player in the WNBA, she is shining a spotlight on you. Don't cheap shot her. Don't take these horrible fouls just because you're jealous of her, just to kind of foul her hard and hurt her. If she's injured and out, you're going to watch your ticket sales drop. You're going to watch your attendance drop. You're going to watch your viewership on TV drop. You're going to watch your engagement on social media drop. Everything is worse if she's not there. So again, you can argue Asia Wilson. You can argue Haley Van Lith or any of these other players. Angel Reese, Paige Beckers, we talked about that earlier this week with Diana Taurasi saying that Paige Beckers will be the best player in the league. That's fine. Argue who the best player is all you want, but do not argue who the most important player is, because it is crystal clear who the most important player is, and that is Caitlin Clark. She is more valuable than the entire league, honestly. So, okay, enough about that. So let's move on. So sticking with basketball, we're going to move on to the now the Thunder. I want to play a video I did for just on social media and show you guys this. So let's see if I can navigate this. But the point of this video is just to show what an absolute boss Sam Presti is and the things that he's doing. Okay, here it is. Got it. Maybe I don't got it. There we go. Now I got it. Okay, so check this out. This one right here.
Big congrats to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on winning the MVP. Much deserved. But we got to talk about what an absolute boss Sam Presti is, the general manager. This is a guy who's only 47 years old. He finally wins Executive of the Year. Much deserved, by the way. But in tiny market OKC, this is the third separate player in just 11 years that has won the MVP award. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and now SGA. That has never happened in NBA history. Not in an 11-year stretch, anyway. The Lakers, Celtics, and Rockets are the only teams that have produced three separate players to win MVP, but none of them did it in an 11-year stretch. The Rockets were super spread out. Moses Malone, Hakeem Olajuwon, and James Harden, of course, who, by the way, was also a Sam Presti guy at OKC. And then the Lakers and Celtics, the biggest names in all of basketball, have only had four separate players win it. Kuzi, Cowens, Russell, and Bird. And then Kareem, Magic, Shaq, and Kobe. And then tiny market OKC is just this MVP factory pumping out MVPs. Sam Presti is a basketball wizard. This is a guy who was assistant GM with San Antonio when they won 3 titles with Popovich, Duncan, Robinson was there for some, and then, of course, Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. He is largely credited for drafting Tony Parker. The guy just knows hoop inside and out. Think about if the OKC Thunder win a title this year without Kevin Durant, without Russell Westbrook, without James Harden, but while all 3 of those guys are still in the league. How crazy would that be? That would be like the Lakers winning it without Kareem and Magic, but they're still in the NBA at the time. Or the Bulls winning it without Jordan and Pippen, but they're still in the NBA at the time. It's unheard of stuff that they're doing in OKC, and it's the smallest market in the league. It's one of the very hardest markets to attract free agents to. And he just keeps doing it over and over. And somehow OKC holds on to him. I mean, they don't lose him to a bigger market, but mad props to Sam Presti, an absolute basketball genius.
Okay. Whoop. This thing started over. Okay. So there you have it. So, I mean, what else can you say about Sam Presti? This guy is a wizard. He is actually what Jerry Krause thought he was with the Bulls. If you watch The Last Dance, Jerry Krause is famous for saying, or infamous for saying, that players and coaches don't win championships, organizations do. Now, he did say players and coaches alone don't win championships, organizations do. That is actually true, and Sam Presti is proving that. Now, it wasn't necessarily true, and now, credit Krause, he did put together Jordan, Pippen, eventually Rodman, before that Horace Grant and some guys, and he brought Phil Jackson there. But ultimately, he kind of looked silly because he had the greatest player in the history of the game on his team. But Sam Presti is what Jerry Krause hoped to be or thought he was. And it's just incredible. In fact, if you are an owner of any NBA franchise, I don't care which one it is, what is stopping you from spending massive money to get Sam Presti to you? Give him ownership. Give him a stake. I looked up briefly if you could do that. I don't think it's against the rules. I couldn't find anything showing me that it's against the rules. Players can't have part ownership, but I believe GMs can. And if that's true, I'm curious why they're not doing it more. Like, why would you not give 5% of your franchise to Sam Presti to hit certain milestones and do this thing? Because I look at like the Jazz, for instance. I live in Utah. Ryan Smith, the owner of the Jazz, he gave Dwayne Wade 1% of the Utah Jazz. Now, I don't know if that's the exact figure, but that is the ballpark figure that is widely floated around out there, is that Dwayne Wade was gifted 1% of the Utah Jazz. And if that's true, which I'm fairly certain it is, why would you not do that to someone like Sam Presti and say, hey, here's 2%? Because that will end up being worth, if this franchise ends up selling the Utah Jazz for $2 billion, 2% is, what is that, $40 million you're giving him on top of his salary, but he only gets that $40 million when the team sells. So I don't know why that's not done more often. If you know anything about that and I'm off on something, please leave a comment, whether you're seeing that, wherever you're seeing this, leave a comment or tweet at me, whatever, at STB Sports Take. But to me, this is something that should be done. Like, why would you not want to get the best players, or excuse me, the best GM on your squad? And why not give him a compensation package? Anyways, the Thunder are doing it. They are going into the finals. They're already there. They're just awaiting the Pacers or Knicks. Game 5 was just last night. So Game 6 tomorrow, Pacers, Knicks. I think the Pacers finish it off at home tomorrow. I have successfully and correctly predicted the last 8 games in these playoffs. So if that holds true, then we've got number 9 coming tomorrow, and that'll be the Pacers moving on to the finals. So we're going to have a Pacers, Oklahoma City NBA Finals, which is a ratings nightmare for the NBA. 2 of the smallest markets in the entire league going head-to-head. But that shows that that part is not rigged. I do believe that the draft lottery was rigged, but I think we can all agree that the NBA would not rig this NBA Finals to be Oklahoma City versus Indiana. No chance. And that's what we're going to get. So, and I think you'll see the Thunder go in there and win their first ever title. Now, they did win when they were the Supersonics back in like 71 or something like that. But they've never won as the Oklahoma City Thunder. And to me, it's like a new team, and that was 50 years ago or whatever it was. So this is a huge deal. They're going to do it, and they're going to do it without Russell Westbrook, without Kevin Durant, without James Harden, all of their best players, all of which won MVP, and none of which are still there. And Sam Presti, while those guys are still in the league fighting for championships themselves, he has put together a squad that is going to win a title before they do, unless you count Kevin Durant's too with Golden State. But it's just incredible what Sam Presti's done. So hats off to him. Again, my prediction is that you'll see the Thunder win in 5 games in the NBA Finals against the Pacers, who I believe will win tomorrow night against the Knicks. So, all right, moving on. So speaking of moves that need to be made and whatnot, Shams Charania, the NBA insider for ESPN, he said the Celtics are definitely making trades this offseason. They will have a different roster next season, absolutely. And I have a thought on this. One is, to me, the Celtics were the favorite in these playoffs. They were the favorite. Like, they're the team that I thought would go win it all. I thought OKC had a good chance, but I actually thought OKC would maybe have a tough time getting past like a Lakers, a Warriors, a Nuggets, something like that with a little bit more experience. But they didn't. They got through. Now they're the favorite. But before that, I would say the Celtics were the favorites. And so be careful what you wish for if you're a Boston Celtics fan, because they were the favorites in these playoffs. And then, they were going to lose that series regardless to the Knicks. But then they did have a terrible injury to Jason Tatum. He will be out all of next season. So maybe that's why they're making changes, is because next year they really don't have a chance without him. But I will say, be careful what you wish for, because we watched the Milwaukee Bucks do this. They thought they won the championship, and then the next year they didn't. And so they started making all these changes. They lose Chris Middleton. They fire Budenholzer. They trade for Dame. They get rid of, Drew Holiday walks. Their roster's just very different now. And it's been a total mistake. I would say all 3 of those big moves, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Budenholzer, all 3 of those moves proved to be the wrong moves that made their team worse. So be careful what you wish for. When you have a good thing, it's okay if you don't win it every single year, because there's a lot of parity in the league right now. So I'm not saying that they should keep it together. If Jason Tatum was healthy, I would absolutely say that they should, because they were title champ. They were the champions last year. They were the favorites this year. They fell short. Why not have another chance at it next year? But with Tatum out, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But that's just something to think about. Another example of that would be Kevin Durant. He's been bouncing around the league forever, trying to find that next spot where he can win a title, and he's not even come close. I don't even think he's been to a conference final since he left the Warriors. He was in the finals, the finals and the conference finals with OKC. Went to the Warriors, was in the finals 3 straight years, won 2 of those. The only one he didn't was when the Raptors beat them, because he tore his Achilles, and Clay tore his ACL. Otherwise, I think they win that one as well. But he has not, and then he leaves, and he has not even sniffed the finals since then. And he has gone on super team after super team, and it's not working out. So the grass isn't always greener. Be careful what you wish for, recognize what you have, and keep working at it there, because that oftentimes is your best chance. The other example I had here of that same thing is the Lakers bubble team. I don't think that was like a true championship team, but they've changed a lot of things since then. And I know that KCP and Dwight Howard, if I can find that one, those guys are like convinced that they would have won the championship, 2-3 more years. I've got the quotes here somewhere. and I'll try and pull them up. Here it is. So here's what, so KCP says this. He says that the GOAT debate would be over by now if the Lakers kept the team together, the title team together in 2020. Basically saying they would have won a couple more. Dwight Howard says they should have never split that team up. We would have had 3 in a row. That's just not true, okay? For true hoopers out there, people that actually follow basketball, that understand basketball, what was this team's biggest weakness? You can actually see I commented it here, okay? The team's biggest weakness was age and health. Both of those things were completely negated by the pandemic in the huge long layoff, okay? So they had 4 months off. 4 months off. That's longer than a true offseason if you make it to the finals. It might have even been 5, honestly. I think it might have been 5. They did it, I can't remember now, but they ended in early March and then they picked it back up in like July. So yeah, I think it was like 4 months. Anyway, they had 4 months off to totally reset. Any injuries, nagging injuries, lingering issues, completely healed and ready to go as if it's the start of a brand new season. And on top of that, no travel, okay? And then you add on top of that, this is a mature team who might not need as much, stability or whatever at home or cruising for chicks for the single dudes, because we know these NBA players do that, and which is totally fine. All men do that, especially when they're young. But these older, more mature guys, they need the rest. They don't really care a bit. The no travel thing is probably kind of nice for them, for their legs, their bodies. But on top of that, like, they don't need the interaction, they don't need the social life quite as much. They're more established. A lot of them are married. They were fine. So to me, every weakness that team had was fixed by the pandemic and accentuated on other teams. And so it played into their favor. Did they win the title that was offered that year? Yeah, they did. Was it a true title? No, it wasn't. It was the title offered that year. I'll give you that. But was it a true, legitimate, normal title? No, of course not. Is Anthony Davis deep in his heart of hearts thinking to himself, I kind of wish I had a real championship? I guarantee he is. I guarantee that thought has crossed his mind. He wants to celebrate with like real fans in the stand, not the freaking cardboard cutouts and like the digital programming fans and the fake crowd noise they were pumping in. That was wildly fun to watch, because we all needed it during the pandemic to watch the bubble competition. It was really fun. But for those of you that think it was like basketball in its purest form just because there was no fans, like that's the weirdest, lamest thing I've ever heard. How does that make it more real basketball because there's no fans? Like it doesn't even make any sense. Somehow somebody said that and everyone else has ran with it because they're Laker homers. But the truth is, no, this team would not have won 2 or 3 in a row. I don't even think they win it that year if it's a regular season. In fact, I'd bet a lot of money. We can never go back and check, but I would bet a lot of money that they wouldn't win it that year if it had been a regular season, regular schedule and stuff. So, okay, we're going to transition a little bit to the NFL. Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett. That is the quarterback room for the Cleveland Browns, right? Joe Flacco is number 1 right now. You could argue that Shedeur Sanders is all the way down at number 4. There is a report that I heard that in their OTA scrimmages, that Shedeur Sanders actually had the greatest showing. He had the highest completion percentage in their scrimmage. He had the most touchdowns. He had no picks, whereas the other guys had, either 1 or more picks, fewer touchdowns, lower completion percentage. He did also attempt, though, the fewest passes, which could tell you that he is number 4 on the totem pole right now if he had the fewest attempts in the scrimmage. But he performed the best, and this is in the first scrimmage. So I have said all along that I think that he will end up the starter. In fact, I want to play another video for you here. And I'm using a new software. I'm hoping that the audio is part of the screen share. I actually don't know if it is or isn't. So if it isn't, I'm going to look kind of silly just doing nothing here. But let's share this real quick. If I can find it. Again, this is Shedeur Sanders. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so let's see. Whoopsie. I'm learning, guys. Learning as we go here. Here we go. Let's try this again.
The first pick of the second round.
Let's try this again. Here we go.
Round of the NFL draft, number 144 overall, to the Browns, as I predicted. Of course, I thought he'd be the first pick of the second round. Teams wait clear until the 5th round to snag him. Very bizarre stuff. And now he's in the quarterback room with 4 other quarterbacks, all of which are pretty well-known guys. You've got Deshaun Watson, doubtful he'll be there. They just picked up the seasoned veteran Joe Flacco. They got Kenny Pickett, and then, of course, the 2 guys they just drafted in Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. So here's the thing. Did he wait longer than he probably should have given his skill set? Yes, he absolutely did. Were there a lot of concerns regarding his attitude towards leadership and his preparation for the interviews and his devotion to team over self? Yeah, there really was, and those were legitimate concerns. But here's the thing. He still has a fantastic chance to win that starting job. Deshaun Watson will not be there. Everybody knows Joe Flacco is old and is not the long-term answer in any way, shape, or form. I don't think Kenny Pickett is the answer in any way, shape, or form long-term. So it really comes down to him and Dylan Gabriel, and he's the better of the 2 players. So if you're a Shedeur Sanders fan, don't worry. I can guarantee you he's not worried. He's going to take his confidence, he's going to put it to work, and he's going to win that starting job. I think there's a very, very good chance you will see Shedeur Sanders start week 1 for the Cleveland Browns. And this might prove, this like seemingly catastrophic slide in the draft very well may prove to be the best thing that ever happened to him. It'll light a fire under him. He'll play better than ever. And maybe, just maybe, he'll be a Hall of Famer like his dad. Because whether you like it or don't like it, whether you think it's right or wrong, fair or unfair, it doesn't really matter. The bottom line is this was a humbling experience for Shedeur Sanders. This is a kid who grew up in a very wealthy family with a star football player dad. He's been the coach's son everywhere he went. He's been the star player everywhere he went. This is the first time he's experienced this type of humbling adversity in his football playing career. I can guarantee that. And every single human on earth, if they harness it the right way, humbling experiences will only make you better. So it's up to Shedeur now to take this, harness it properly, and prove everybody wrong. Prove everybody wrong. We've seen it with Russell Wilson. We've seen it with Tom Brady. We've seen it with Brock Purdy. It happens time and time again. Even Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. There are plenty of star quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks, solid quarterbacks in the NFL who didn't get drafted in the first round. And Shedeur can be no different. It's up to him now to make it happen, though.
So there you go. So I don't know how you can argue with any of that, right? I mean, and that's what we see happening a little bit now. It feels like anyway. We'll kind of find out as time goes on where he lands. I had said in that video, and I said in tweets and stuff like that, that I think he had a chance to start week 1, which he does. I think it's likely, though, that Joe Flacco is the week 1 starter, but I'd be shocked if Shedeur doesn't eventually become the starter in Cleveland this season. We'll see. Moving on. Sticking in the NFL, though. Aaron Rodgers is still not on a team, and I don't think Joy Taylor is aware of that. Joy Taylor on FS1, very controversial character. A lot of crazy stuff in the news about her, which we won't get into right now, but she went on a full rant, a full tirade about how ridiculous it is that he is not at the Pittsburgh Steelers OTAs, and about how what just a horrible example he's setting, what a diva he's being, whatever it is. You know, she went on and on about how it's just so ridiculous. It's all about him. He's not at OTAs. He's not on the team. So that would be like me showing up for OTAs and expecting to get some reps in. He's not on the team. He doesn't have a contract. He hasn't signed anything. He's literally not a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So of course he won't be at OTAs. Now, that said, will he likely end up with the Steelers? Yeah, most likely. But here's something that Terry Bradshaw had to say. Very, very interesting. Again, I'll share my screen. And again, I'm hoping that this is working like I think it is. But Terry Bradshaw says here, that guy needs to stay in California. I mean, listen, you can just listen to it here. Here we go.
Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback, that's a joke. He shouldn't. That is just, to me, is a joke.
But what are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? I mean,
that's not the Steelers' way, right?
No, man, that guy needs to stay in California, go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the guys out there.
100%.
What do you think about possibly Aaron Rodgers?
He needs to go chew on bark and stay in California. That is too good. Okay, so very funny stuff. I do think Aaron Rodgers ends up with the Steelers. I'm not sure what else they're going to do at this point, but I think his time as like a quarterback that can lead you to the promised land is definitely over. And it feels like it's not because his talent has slipped so badly, but his desire to be there and compete and like care to win, and his inability, kind of like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, his inability to adapt in certain ways and be a little bit more humble and a little bit more of an amazing teammate and So I don't know where Aaron Rodgers ranks all time. I don't know. I mean, he's got a bunch of MVPs, but he's only got one Super Bowl title. He's only been to one Super Bowl. And that is, to me, the number one, measuring stick for greatness of a quarterback. So is he top 3 or 4 all time? No, in my opinion, he's definitely not. Is he maybe around like the 5th spot? Possibly. Is he top 10? Yeah, I think he is. I think he's definitely top 10. I do think he ends up in Pittsburgh, but just so Joy Taylor knows, he's not there yet. So, okay, moving on. So one more thing in the NBA, move back to that. This is very brief, but there's a report out there that Victor Wembanyama is still growing. I don't know if it's true or not. They're saying he's like 7'5" now. I mean, the kid's only like, 21 years old or something. So it's possibly still growing. Here's the thing. He's incredible. He is like an absolute freak, an alien, as Nike's got him kind of, marketed as. He really is. He's incredibly tall and long and still agile and athletic. He can shoot, he can dribble, he can move, he can do it all. But he's a stick, and he just keeps growing, and I just feel like I've seen it too much. Those guys just don't last. I don't want that to be the case. I hope it's not the case. I wish for his sake and the NBA's sake and Spurs fans' sake that it's not the case. But my gut feeling is that he's just going to have an injury-riddled career that will keep him from reaching the true greatness that everybody believes he can get to, which I'm included in that category. I believe he can get there if he remains healthy. It just feels like the human body isn't meant to be that big and tall, that quickly, and that skinny, and play a sport as intense as basketball and not have it wear on you quickly. And so that's just been my observation watching basketball. We watched, Yao Ming didn't have a very long career. All the super tall guys like Sean Bradley didn't have the longest career. There was injuries here or there. I think about Greg Oden. It just feels like there's just things that happen, Again, I'm not wishing that on anybody. I'm wishing the opposite. That's just my gut feeling, is that it's going to be hard for him. And we've already seen it a little bit. We've already seen little injuries that are coming up, even with his veins or the blood clots or whatever. Like the body just has to work so much harder to keep a body that large healthy. And I think it's difficult. And I think it's even more difficult when you're as skinny as he is. So we'll see. I hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of something I've been thinking about. Okay, we're going to end the show with this. A couple minutes on the French Open. Now, I'm mainly a NFL, NBA, college sports guy, football, basketball, but I do love the Grand Slams. And we're in the midst of the French Open right now. And there's something I thought about. So we're at like the very end of the golden era of tennis. I mean, the last 25 years have been the best you could possibly hope for as a tennis fan. Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic all played in the same era. It's insane because they are not only the best 3 tennis players of all time, they are by far the best 3 tennis players of all time. Can you imagine if those guys had been like spaced out like an extra 5 years or so? If it hadn't been, because Federer turned pro in, I got it written down here somewhere. Federer turned pro in 98, Nadal in 2001, Djokovic in 2003. So it's only a 5-year gap from Federer to Djokovic. Imagine if it had been 5 years from Federer to Nadal, and then 5 years from Nadal to Djokovic. So there's a 10-year gap between Federer and Djokovic. These guys would have 30 Grand Slams each. Right now, it's Djokovic with 24, Nadal with 22, Federer with 20. Federer is retired as of like 3 years ago. Nadal retired less than a year ago. Djokovic just turned 38. This is the end of the golden era. I mean, this is it, because there is no one currently playing anywhere even remotely close to the stratosphere that these guys are in. Like, they're not even kind of close. So turn on the French Open and watch, because some of the best players are still left, Djokovic being one of them. Alcaraz is still in, Sinner's still in, Zverev is still in. So Sinner, I don't know if I said him, but he's currently ranked number 1. He's 23-year-old Italian, and he won the Australian Open earlier this year. So playing well. And Francis Tiafoe is probably my favorite American player left. For those watching, or most likely are American. If you care, he's probably the best. But I just wanted to do a little plug for the French Open, because we are witnessing, I love just greatness, okay? And I can't even name any tennis players outside of the ones I just named, but it's because they were so good that they captivated me. Roger Federer had the greatest run of dominance, I would argue, that any individual has ever had in any sport in the history of the world. From like 2004 through 2008, he was absolutely untouchable. winning Grand Slam after Grand Slam after Grand Slam. And only because Djokovic and Nadal were right on his heels, just a few years younger, did he start to cede a few of those Grand Slams to them and them to him and them to each other. And they just kind of like, I mean, look at that. 66 Grand Slams between the three of them. 66. And they all played at the same time. So true greatness. Watch the French Open. Get a chance to watch Djokovic. He's the 6th ranked player in the world right now. I think he's got a very good shot to go the distance. And I'd like to see him and Alcaraz in the final because I think they're the 2 best players in the world right now. We'll see how it goes, but I want to give that plug. Guys, thank you for being here. As you can see, we've been working on a new set. We've got some new stuff in place. Going to be doing more of these long form ones more frequently. Please follow us on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram, STB Sports Take across the board. Love you guys. I am out. Peace.